Hi, everybody. Today we have Hashim Said, who is a product lead for me at Google. He's worked at companies like Microsoft, Facebook, now Meta, and you also have your stealth startup, which is more involved in the Web3 space. So Hashim, I was actually going through your LinkedIn right before this call, and I saw these three words, which are hunger, energy, and hustle, along with the three flags of the countries that you've lived in or you associate yourself with. So I really want to start off with that. Like, what do these three words mean to you?
Hi. So look, first and foremost, it's a privilege to be here with yourself and everybody else. So hunger, energy, hustle. This is the best piece of career advice that I was ever given. And I think it's hopefully come to define who I am and principles I aspire to be. So the advice was actually given to me by a former, a global VP at Meta, who ran the global gaming team. And he said, anything you can do when you come into work or when you start your career, have hunger, have energy, and have hustle. And what does that actually mean? Hunger is like, be hungry to succeed, hungry to maximize your potential, hungry to drive impact. Have energy. You know, like the world is so busy and we're all so preoccupied with 100 different things going on in our head. But he said, come in with that positive energy, come in with that smile, and be ready and willing to help and support others and have hustle. And, you know, to me, that just meant do the work, do the work, do it well, and enjoy what you do and find purpose in that. So hunger, energy, hustle, sort of three principles in which I've tried to by trying
our best. It's always a work in progress, man. But if we can get more now to what do you do and where did this all start? I think that's where we're trying to get, the better scoop out of this session as well, because you've had an amazing journey, honestly. And now you are at a position in life where you're also able to give back to the Pakistani community. And I feel like that's a really privileged position to have. But I do know that it comes with a lot of struggle and hard work, a lot of hustle where you put in a lot of energy and, so it's always like a work in progress, like you mentioned, but I would really want to know more about how this all started for you.
Yes, so I was born in London. I grew up, I'm in London right now. I grew up there. I also lived in the Netherlands for nearly, I think, 15 years. I spent a bit of time in Dublin as well, but I've always maintained like strong cultural roots to Pakistan. I think a lot of that has just come from my family environment, going back at least once a year, speaking Urdu at home, etc. I've always maintained that connection. And for me, I've always felt very privileged in terms of growing up abroad and having these multicultural experiences, but I've always felt an inherent responsibility to, you represent where you come from, whichever group, society, country, nation, state, club that you associate with, you represent that in every single form of your action that you do. So, whether I'm like playing sport or like cooking or like dancing or working, you represent the values, right?
Nice.
So yeah, I love Bollywood dancing. So that's
man, I love that. Can I ask, what's your go-to Bollywood song or music that you listen to?
So yeah, I was talking to a friend about this actually, and I think I don't really have a music like taste. I just like a bit of everything, whether it's like English, Bollywood, etc. Just
it depends on the mood.
The song that I did like a solo dance on at a recent wedding was Batamiz Dil.
Oh, nice. But yeah, talking about the cultural, association as well. And I'm really glad that you also had a chance to, hold on to those roots. And like you mentioned, it's a really important part of your upbringing and your background, as well as how you portray yourself in your career and, moving forward as well. So if we were to talk about, again, you've lived in London, and London is a very competitive place to work in. The environment, it's like a melting pot, different cultures. People come in there with a mindset that I want to be the best and I want to do my best. So living in that environment and having the opportunities that you had and the work that you've done, if we can go back to, how, let's say you graduated, and then after that, what were your options in terms of career? But how were you able to, build that skill set to work at the places that you've had before? And where do you plan to go next?
So, I think the topic of career fascinates me. And to throw in a quote from Mo Gaudet, he says that life is a quest, not a journey. And you're constantly figuring out your next move, your next iteration. And it's like playing the game. I really do think it's an infinite game. There is no winners, losers. You play your own game. And I think that you should want to create a magic when you're playing the game. So for me, I Yeah, I did my GCSEs here, did my A levels in the Netherlands, but I wanted to come back to university in England.
Right.
I studied politics, philosophy, economics because I was just
Wow.
curious about the world, but more or less I didn't know what to do. So I was like, okay, let me do a bit of everything
Cool.
in
Nice.
this sense.
Mhm.
But I spent most of my university years at York either playing hockey or building a consulting society. And this was born out of a need to, you go to university and you're presented with like different tracks: law, banking, tech wasn't so big
Engineering,
then,
tech, yep.
consulting, government, etc.
Yes.
But like to get work experience, you need to have experience. And it became this cyclical loop. And I just became so frustrated by this thing of, I'm trying to get experience. I'm doing all the right things, like with clubs, society, sports, TED Talks, etc. But I can't get anywhere. So we just basically created our own work. We built a society, an organization that did pro bono work with local charities, startups, SMEs, anything from a statement of work right to a deliverable. All the projects were done by students. We raised money to cover costs, to invest back into the organization. We secured mentorship from large corporates to get sign off on these types of things, and we grew this business from basically like 2 people to like hundreds.
Okay.
We were touching
Was this your
thousands.
first like entrepreneurial sort of a stint?
Yeah, but this is another interesting thing. I think this was back when Monzo was also just kind of picking up, and nobody really was throwing around the word startup. Like you're just doing work and trying to have an impact and create change for others. And the ultimate goal was to help students get jobs, which we were really successful at because we could build pipelines for different firms such as Accenture and a few others, and it was fantastic. And I think from there actually, I started to realize that whatever I do in life, I want to be close to kind of sales, marketing, business development, as well as kind of the strategy and execution. I love like talking to people. I love meeting people. I love selling, but relationship building. And so I tried a fixed income sales internship at JP Morgan. I loved the sales aspect, but bonds wasn't for me.
Right.
No disrespect to anybody that's out there. It just wasn't a product that I was super passionate about. And then I said, then I had a really tough time actually, because I decided not to go back there after university. And you make that decision at the end of your second year, and you're thinking, okay, well, where do I go now? And I went through a lot of just sort of emotional pain because you feel at the top, you've done this amazing internship, you're building cool stuff, you're doing really well, but you can't get anywhere. Like nobody is hiring you now. And I had to go through this really big dip in self-learning. And that's when I started to understand the tech sector, because I said, well, banking isn't for me, legal isn't for me, consulting isn't for me. So what's left? And that's where this tech world kind of opened up to me. And I remember just like on Facebook, I was like, people must work here, right? And you just like, submit your CV to this random box.
Wow.
And I then remember, like, I think 2 months later, it was the classic story of like, you sat in the library like at 2 a.m. or something, just doing work. And then 2 months later, I got an email like, we would love to invite you for an interview on site, etc. So I flew to Dublin. First time I went to Dublin, and then I got my job there, and the rest just kind of followed from that.
That's amazing. But I would really want to know again, that emotional pain that you had in terms of, okay, well, nobody's hiring me. How do I get my next job? I've already sort of hit a milestone. Now the next one needs to be, bigger than that. We always are in that sort of, like we have our own goals and everything needs to be better than what we've done before. So I think in that sense, if we can talk about, the hiring processes as well, because you have gone through quite a few, I can imagine. But also getting jobs at one of the biggest tech firms that you've had a chance to work with, whether it's Meta, whether it's Microsoft, and now you're working at Google. So how has that shifted or added more to your CV or your professional skill set in terms of also talking about relational building as well, right? Relationship building that you talked about earlier.
So there's 3 things which I hope have hopefully defined my career, and I've always tried to embody, as well as there's like a career advice. It's, I think, focus on impact, and impact is value creation. It goes beyond results. So it's, what is it that you're doing that's creating a sustainable change for others, whether it's a process, a new organization, a deliverable, like what is the value extraction that people benefit from that? The second, I think, is engaging with others. And especially as you start off your career, you should just want to be a sponge and just soak in knowledge and learning from those around you. And I think that is a real privilege. If you can just go into rooms, shadow people, and just listen, you soak it. And I've been really lucky to have been surrounded by people that have helped me through that. And I think the third thing is it's kind of molds the whole hunger, energy, hustle sort of together. Is I really think we should be smiling more when we're at work.
That's so true. That is so true.
Genuinely, I think there is a power in that smile to breed positive emotions, dopamine, serotonin, etc. When you build that connection. But my role has changed over the different places I've been. So at Facebook, again, like I think that's why I tried to carry the entrepreneurship in me and said, well, I ended up working in our kind of core business function, working with clients, helping them grow their businesses through basically Facebook advertising and Instagram advertising. And I realized there was a new opportunity for us to partner more closely with startups, seed and Series A companies, specifically that when they raise money and they have to go to market and establish their brand, their products, get customer acquisition, we were not the number one player just based on market dynamics. So myself and a colleague, we basically built this high value program that took startups that just raised money, and we just accelerated their growth through customer acquisition, building their brand, building their product, doing everything from websites to brand positioning, go-to-market strategy, creative influencers, anything. And we worked with D2C brands, fintech, health tech, ed tech, you name it. And it was a fantastic journey. And we were partnering with investors as well as the founders and the operators in those companies. At Microsoft, I did something slightly different. I was in it's slightly more different kind of organization. So I was working as a client partner, where effectively managing an account team to help drive digital transformations for financial services companies. So you take some of the biggest, financial services businesses in the UK. How do you basically get them moving faster, more in line with customers, etc., through Microsoft technology from an advertising and sort of other business perspective, and it was very different for me because Facebook was very fast, and I had a lot of entrepreneurship kind of flexibility. Versus this, I was really learning the importance of stakeholder management, working with others, sort of, kind of hybrid managing a team, building cross-functional, vertical, horizontal relationships. And you're working with your clients are not, they move fast, but they also work in very, established businesses, which has entirely different challenge mindset to a startup that raise money and is excited to go to market.
Yeah.
And now my
there's more risk involved with working with startups. They're willing to take risks, but when you're working with scale-ups or bigger companies, then that sort of plateaus or like flatlines.
Yeah, do you know what? I think it's a different kind of risk. I think the startups to the big corporates have a very different kind of risk, both from a burn rate of cash to also investor responsibility, customer responsibility, and organizational procedures. So I've learned so much in the dynamics of like startups to big corporates. And it's been great. And now my role at Google my role as a product lead for Europe, Middle East, and Africa. We sit in the intersection of our sales teams who are working with, our largest clients to help them grow their businesses through basically Google search, and our engineers who are building these fantastic products. And our job is to effectively figure out what are we building, why are we building it, how can we make it better, how can we drive commercial value, how can we maximize user value from people going onto search, and how do we drive automation of that. So you act as sort of, it's funny because, I remember at university, I built a consulting society and I was like, I don't want to be a consultant.
Right. And now it's like,
in this sort of internal, corporate strategy kind of role of trying to figure out how does everything work. I just, I feel very lucky. I feel very gracious, and I absolutely love what I do. I think all these years, I've loved it, every minute of the quest, to quote Mo.
That is amazing, especially that you love what you're doing. And I think that's the most important part of anything that you do in life. But I really want to understand again, like, how have your goals shifted? Like, has there been a point where you're like, oh, Hashim, I'm so proud of you. You made it.
Do you know, I think I'm my own worst. I think I am my own worst enemy.
Right.
I am, I don't know if the word is restless, in the sense of, if I think like to 10 years ago, I would be dreaming to be exactly where I am now. Even 5 years ago, I'd be dreaming to go where I am now. And I remember even before I applied to Facebook, I was always like, I'd love to work at Facebook, Microsoft, Google. Oh my God, how cool would it be? And now that I think about it, it's just, one, I'm very proud and very happy, but for me, I think the goals kind of move as the more you play the game.
Yep.
As you start, you have a different goal based off on what you can see and and then the more you play, you're like, well, that looks cool. This looks interesting. Maybe I could do that. Maybe I could push myself here. So it's, but I think that maybe restlessness, relentless frustration also drives me in the sense of both having pleasure in what I'm doing and trying to make sure I make the most of it, but also staying hungry, energetic, maintaining that hustle to say there is more. I want to be more, create more, demand more from myself and from. I want to deliver more value to people I work with and come across with.
If you were to start over again, right? Do you think that you would maybe have a different journey, or would you still want to stick to everything that you've done so far?
If I was to start over again, would I have a journey? No, I think, especially in the early days of my career, as much as I loved what I was doing at Meta,
right.
I think because all of my friends were, consultants, lawyers, bankers, etc., you feel a bit disconnected, like you're in a different world. And it was great. I mean, those first few years of, you're flying to San Francisco, you're flying all around Europe, you're meeting clients, you are, the offices are insane. It's a privilege to be at these types of places, free lunches, etc., and all those perks. But sometimes you used to think, this is not real. Like it just can't be real. And you used to see like all my friends doing very similar types of things, and you think, well, is there a path in life? And is that the path? And am I off the path? And the reason I wouldn't change anything is because, and again, this has come through mentorship that I've learned, is your career is like a jungle gym and you own it.
Right.
Which tree you go to, however you swing is entirely up to you. There were times when I was reflecting about, okay, and I still think about it sometimes, about further education. I think about, okay, maybe I could pivot here, pivot into that. But the thing that's always defined me is, I think you have to figure out what are you good at. And my thing has always been building relationships, trying to drive impact more on the execution side of things, as well as kind of the strategy. And I said, I'm just going to hone that in. I'm also going to try and build up other skill sets, but I'm going to hone that. Different schools of thought around obsession and different things around that, but find what you're good at, where that passion comes from, and just drive it home. I often compare it to athletes and sports players in this high performance bubble. Like Cristiano Ronaldo, for example, whether he was born to be or he became to be, he is a footballer. And that is what he is good at, first and foremost. Everything else that comes after that is secondary. That is his first focus. And I think you need to maintain that focus. And I realized my focus is within this tech sector, this internet sector. It's within sales, marketing, business, product, strategy roles. That's where I can add the most value, whether it's to big corporates, startups, VCs, engineers, product managers. That's just the output. But that focus, you need to maintain that.
That's very true. And talking about working with strengths and things or skill sets that you might want to improve, and maybe they're not your strengths. There's something that you've mentioned or shared on LinkedIn about how working with strengths, and please correct me if I'm wrong, working with strengths is equal to exponential gains, and then working with weaknesses is equal to incremental gains, and we need to have both. But I would really want to maybe dive further into, if you were to explain, what's Hashim's version of this?
Interesting. That actually came. We were very lucky. We went to Madrid as a team. We did a session with a strength finder coach, licensed by Gallup and everything. And my strengths were like woo, which means energy apparently. And there was also I was like, really? The second one was command, and I was like, oh, I sound so authoritarian. But I think it's just leadership through by doing. And the third one was relationships. And it's interesting that when you present people with their strengths, more often than not, their first thought is, that's not me.
Yeah, true.
Somebody else. But and my key takeaway from that lesson is embrace your strengths, harness them. And to your exact point, when you work with your strengths, that is exponential gains. Now, for instance, I can do analytics. I understand, Excel, Google Sheets, all that sort of stuff, but it's not my strongest point. And I could push myself into a career, or just even in life, actually, do a thing that is more analytical, but it's not where I would add the most value to people I'm working with, or enjoy it myself. And I see that, if there are days when I'm doing things like that, I can do it, and I don't mind doing it. But in my head, I'm like, this is not really me, and that's when you figure out what is me. It's that woo. It is trying to be a good leader. And leadership doesn't come with titles, by the way. Leadership just comes from...
I love that. I absolutely love that.
Yeah, how you interact with people, leading through empathy, etc. And empathy is also listening and understanding, as well as saying, not just I get you. And the third, of building relationships. And one of the things I've actually loved is, as my career has progressed, I actually love connecting people to others and saying, oh, you should talk to this person, talk to that person. This guy recently reached out to me, and he has a story that needs to be shared in more forums. But grew up in Syria, also lived in the UK. Is now has been to LSE, Oxford, Harvard, lawyer, but has had his very fair share of hardships. And his story just opened so many eyes to me. And I said, actually, you should talk to two of my other, friends or contacts, because you guys have benefited from each other's learning, and now they're looking to work together. They're opening doors for each other. So that relationship is again something which I think you should harness. So 100% agree. Working with your strengths, embracing them, harnessing them, it has exponential gains. Working with weaknesses is still important, but it has incremental gains, and it just varies what is more important to you and why.
Wow. Thank you for that, Hashim. No, seriously, I think it's really important that you mentioned that. And also in terms of leadership that you mentioned, I will be sharing a link once I post this about your TEDx talk as well. And I really feel like people should listen to that. But Hashim, I would love to know, what is your advice to people in their 20s who are, let's say, starting off or maybe looking for their first ever job, feeling the same way, like I just had an internship, but I'm not able to find my internship. Where do I go? Nobody's hiring me. How can I get my first job? People sort of, losing hope in themselves because they attach that hope to their career, which is very human of us to do, because we've sort of, built in that system that we're a part of. What is your advice to people starting off and looking for jobs, also to build a career like yours?
Resilience. You need to be resilient. You need to, if it doesn't work out, and if it's just not for you, right? But you cannot lose hope, because losing hope is not losing hope in the system, it's losing hope in yourself. And you cannot lose hope in your ability. Second, engage with others, like really leverage tools like Instagram, LinkedIn, and there's a whole bunch of others, to actually take time to understand, what do people do? Why do they do it? And you know what? Do I want to do this?
Right.
And that's how you figure out, okay, this is not for me. This is the right path for me. I think the third thing is perseverance commands success. You have to just keep going, keep iterating, keep reflecting, keep learning, and just maintain that positive hunger, energy, hustle, that smile. Just say, I will get there. And it's a roller coaster, and it's not a straight line. It goes up and down, but perseverance commands success, and just keep going and don't stop.
Awesome. I love how we were thinking about something else to talk about, but how the theme of this whole thing literally switched to hunger, energy, and hustle. And I feel like we couldn't have done better than that. I love it. So thank you so much, for sharing your journey and, just letting it all out in terms of advice, and also, sharing about the lows and the highs of your life. I'm hoping that one day we get to do a part 2 where we can talk more about, the other things and the side projects that you're doing at the moment, whether it's mentorships, investments, or even like dabbling into the world of Web3, because I feel like it's a very exciting space to be in. And we do need more people like you who do see the world more in terms of, people and relationship building, not just numbers. So, it's really good to see what you're doing, and good luck for everything else.
And thank you to you for the platform and opportunity to share these thoughts.
No, I was really happy to, just to be like, okay, wait, today is the episode that I do with Hashim. Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.